And then, as you all know, Fiona is the go-to with everything COO executives in transition. So if you need anything, reach out to her. Bill and I are always available, but Fiona's most likely to take care of it better and quicker. So with that, I would like to introduce you to Derek. And I met Derek through one of our more recent speakers who is with us, Janice Litbin. She spoke to us on banishing stress, and she introduced me to Derek because they're work colleagues and friends. And as I was excited with his topic, and I'm hopeful that it's helpful to you. So I will share a little bit of background about Derek. And he is from the UK, as he shared. He's an international negotiator who studied and spoken on negotiating in 32 countries around the world. He's an author of 10 books. He's been voted the best speaker on negotiation in the UK, and he holds the top 3 awards from his professional association, the Professional Speakers Association. So I'd like for you to just relax and enjoy as Derek draws on his book, which is called Win-Win: How to Get Winning Results from Persuasive Negotiations. And he's going to challenge you to take away 3 points today that you can use in all your careers now and going forward. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, turn it over to Derek, and it's all yours.
Brilliant. Thanks very much indeed, Laura. Marvelous to be with you all, guys. And I just put up a background picture of Tower Bridge. I'm a London boy. I was born 4 miles from there. I support Arsenal football team, which Stan Kroenke's just tried to take over. There's been a huge row on soccer, as you call it, we call it football over here recently, about football teams. Amazing negotiations going on about that, but the Brits are not very happy about the Americans, the Arabs, and the Russians taking over our football league. So I've been watching those negotiations. I'm a serial negotiator. I negotiate everything. I put a post on LinkedIn about 2 hours ago and asked people to fill in a poll whether they always negotiated, they negotiated sometimes, or they never negotiate. The results of that poll at the moment, 600 people have voted, and please do follow me on LinkedIn. I'd love to have you as a colleague. I've got 5,000 people and I put up all sorts of negotiation tips on LinkedIn. I actually live 30 miles away from London now. I live in the town of Guildford, which was a woolen town. That clock up there was put up there in 1699 and has been there ever since. And you can see some of those buildings this was a town where the people stopped on their way to Portsmouth before they sailed to the West Indies, and all that things that we're not allowed to talk about anymore in the last year, because people have decided that we're not allowed to. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. If you haven't put in the chat box where you are, please do, because I'd love to know. I've traveled the world. I really enjoy traveling, and I must have been to the US about 20 times. As I was saying earlier, I've traveled across the US on several trains. I'm train mad and really had a great time. The last time I caught the train from Denver to San Francisco, which was a fabulous experience, except it was 5 hours late and we got dropped at wherever it is, the other side of the bridge, and then had to find our own way to not downtown, but you know where the port is. I forgot, pier something or other. Forgive me, I don't know all that. So a little bit about me. I worked for Barclays Bank in the UK for a long time, and I got in some really difficult negotiations in my career. I was responsible for the retail sector, and in those days, Tesco was the 3rd largest retailer in the world after Walmart and Nordstrom. And they had the 3rd largest turnover. Of course, the world's changed now, as we know. Probably the largest retailer in the world's Amazon. And I haven't Googled it recently to see who the largest retailers were. But I was thrown out of Tesco's head office in 30 seconds for not reducing my price on £1 million contract. What's that, about $1.5 million? And that day I was sitting on Cheshunt Station, a really dreary, miserable place in the middle of the winter in London. It was probably raining, getting a train back to London, thinking, I've just lost £1 million contract. How am I going to explain that to the chairman of Barclays? And I thought I was a good negotiator, but how good is good enough? And that's the question I want to ask you. How good is good enough? because all the research that's been done at Harvard, at the business schools in the UK, so that negotiation skills is one of the most important skills that a business person can have. You need the technical skills, of course you do, but the ability to present, to negotiate, to pick the right people on your team are absolutely fundamental. And as Carol Dweck, your very famous author in Mindset, said, if you can't negotiate well, you can't be in business for very long. And clearly, when you're between jobs or you're chief operating officers, the ability to negotiate is really important. So I was kind of there. I thought I was a good negotiator. Frankly, I wasn't. I was an intuitive negotiator. I was a street savvy guy. But so that night I went to a bookshop in the middle of London. And I bought my first book called Everything is Negotiable. That was written by a Brit, guy called Gavin Kennedy. Most books 30 years ago were written by Americans, and they were very much hardball negotiator. I'm going to be tougher than you. I'm going to get a better deal than you, rather than the Harvard philosophy of win-win, which was written by Bill Urey in Getting to Yes, which was really the first book that talked about, if I help you get what you want, then I can get what I want, which was the philosophy, of course, of Dale Carnegie, as you know, when he wrote How to Win Friends and Influence People, which was the first book, which talked about put yourself in the other person's position. So I gave it a lot of thought, and I realized that I didn't really understand tactics when people were using psychological tactics on me. I was a little scared to ask, I have to admit, but if you don't ask, you don't get. So when you get a salary offer, it's never going to be the best offer. So you need to ask for a bit more. And if you want my tips on how to ask softly for a bit more, put the questions in the chat box. I'll answer any question you want in the time we've got available. So my goal today is to share with you some of the things I learned, some of the things I've written about in my book, Win-Win. I never thought that 25 years later, I would be the published author of a book that's been translated into Chinese. Well, I think it's Chinese. I have no idea whether it's Chinese or not because I can't read a word of it, but I'm taking a chance that it might be Chinese. By the way, you don't make any money out of books. So if you did buy my book on Amazon.com, and I think Laura tried to get hold of a copy of it, but it took a little while to come through, I will need to sell 10 of those to make a pint of beer. So I'm not going to get rich on the book, but I would say to you, if you're interested in the subject, then it took me 2 years to write it, and it's 30 years of my experience. So I'm really, to be honest, I'm really proud of it. So I'm going to share some of my best tips, and I'm going to share my screen now, if I may. So here we go. We're going to test the ability of Zoom. You should be seeing my first slide, which says how to get a win-win result from persuasive negotiations. Laura, can you see that? We're 4,000 miles apart, so I might need a bit of reassurance sitting here all on my own in my study.
You're
Ladies
good.
and gentlemen, great, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, what does that say? Does it say opportunity is nowhere, or does it say opportunity is now here? And of course, as we know, it really depends where you put the W, or whether your cup is half full or half empty, or whether you believe you can or whether you believe you can't. You're probably right, as Henry Ford said. So therefore, are you a positive person or are you a negative person? Because opportunities are everywhere. And I always start off with that slide because I want to make sure that people are thinking positive, because you've got to think positive when you're negotiating. You've got to think, what's the goals I want to achieve? Where am I coming from? Why do I want to achieve them? And I've coached a few people that wanted to earn a lot of money, but what they didn't want is the work that went with it, the stress that went with it, the time they were away from their family. And that's the first question I asked them. What's your goals? What's your goals for life? Where do you want to be in 10 years' time? And what do you want to be earning? Because at the end of the day, if you want to be earning an awful lot of money, there's a price to be paid for that, which you may not want to do. You may want to live a little bit longer. When I was traveling to London, commuting for an hour and a half each way, getting home at 9 o'clock at night when my kids were growing up, and I'm not proud of that, by the way, I thought that if I went on at that pace for too long, I'd probably kill myself, which is why I had a goal to leave Barclays at an early stage. And that's why the first chapter of Win-Win is about the first negotiation is with you. And the reason it's with you is because you need to think about what you want, what quality of life you want, perhaps how long you're going to live, your health, etc., your family, where you want to travel to, and all those things, and then how much money you need. But you know all that. So what I'd like to do now is to ask you on a scale of 0 to 100 where you are as a negotiator. And I think Fiona's got a poll that we could put up if it's working well, and we've tested it, so it should be. If you could launch the poll, Fiona. I can't because I'm going to have to come out of that screen. So there you are. You've got 10 seconds while the poll's up to score yourself on a scale of 0 to 100 where you see yourself as a negotiator. And the results are coming in very quickly. Thank you. And it's even. It's 50-50 at the moment. So we've got 6 out of 7 people voted. 1 person hasn't voted. And you've got yourself between 26 and 75. Ladies and gentlemen, that's normal. So that's good. My question to you is, if you scored yourself 40, what's going to take to be a 50? If you scored yourself 50, what's it going to take to be a 60? What are the 3 things that you're going to take away today, which maybe you knew, but you don't put into practice? Maybe you knew, but under the pressure of an interview, of a stressful negotiation, something you feel passionate about, then how will you react? I'm just sharing the results of the poll there, and as you can see, it's pretty well balanced. When I polled people on LinkedIn last week on this question for you, 6,000 people responded to my LinkedIn post. 33% said they were over 75, which is interesting. I am not sure I believe them, but it doesn't matter. 33%, 45% said they were between 51 and 75, and only whatever's less than, I can't work out the numbers while I'm talking, said they were under that. It doesn't matter. That's just your view, isn't it, where you are? The real crunch is, where will you be after this? Where will you be when you're in a stressful situation? Because it's difficult to think straight sometimes when you're in a stressful situation. So, the word negotiation. Most people have never spotted that the word negotiation has the word ego right bang in the middle of it. The second, third, and fourth words are ego. So what I'd like you to do is to think in the future of reducing your amount of ego that you put into a negotiation, and perhaps being nice to the other person that you're negotiating with, and maybe play up to their ego, because the most important person in the world is them, to them, as Dale Carnegie said, and therefore reduce your ego, because egos get in the way. Egos get in the way of everything, don't they? And you know, we've all got egos, and that's fair enough, but put your ego away when you're negotiating. Now, I'd just like you to put in the poll, in the chat box, the age that you perceive that lady to be. Is she 75 or is she 25? And Laura, I can't see the chat box while I've got the slides up. So if you could tell me what the results are coming in. I'll need you to do this fairly quickly, please, because I've got quite a lot of items to share with you. You're giving up your valuable time to be on this Zoom call. So have we got any results coming in, Laura?
Yeah, everybody so far is saying 25. Oh, somebody said either. Yeah. Somebody saw both. So 2 people saw both. Others have said 25.
It's very interesting, actually, because very often people think it's very much a young person. That's a piece of psychology that's been in psychology textbooks for the last 100 years. And some people can see the old lady with the big nose, somebody where I'm running my mouse around now. Some people can see the old lady, some people can see the young lady. You might be asking yourself, what's that got to do with negotiation? Ladies and gentlemen, the issue is, what's the perception of us when we're negotiating? What's the perception of the other side when they're negotiating? And what's the real issue? It was JP Morgan that said there's three sides to everything. There's three answers to everything: mine, yours, and the right one. And this is always the issue, finding the right one. I mean, that war that's going on at the moment between Israel and Palestine is actually, it's awful at the moment, isn't it? And the Gaza Strip, all that bombing we're seeing each day. And when we look at it, you know, it really needs sorting out. And I know it's history, and all things are history and religion in wars, but I just was thinking someone's got to bang a few heads together. And I was thinking it's Joe Biden that's probably got to get in there and sort out, mediate and sort the negotiations out. That's a bit of an aside, but I was thinking about that negotiation last night as I watched people fleeing from their homes being throwing rockets at each other. So moving on, what stops many people negotiating? Number one, they don't like conflict. And there's always going to be a bit of conflict when we're negotiating. It's not natural for humans to like conflict, thank goodness, even though there's a lot of conflict around the world. And I was told there's only been 46 days without a war around the world since the end of the Second World War, which is a scary statistic. Number two is they're afraid to ask. Why are people afraid to ask? Well, they're afraid of rejection. It's a natural human thing that we don't want to be rejected. So it's all a question of how you ask for a bit of extra pay, a bit of extra in the salary, a few extra days of holiday or whatever. It's really important to you in the goals. And number three is lack of confidence. And so let's address those three as we go around. My submission to you is that negotiation sits right in the middle of presenting, pitching, and Laura, can you see my mouse moving around? Great. Presenting, pitching, selling, influencing, haggling, which is what a lot of people think negotiation is. Well, of course it's not, because if you can't present professionally, how are you going to get to the negotiation table? If you can't pitch yourself or your company and sell yourself the benefits of you working for the company, or the benefits of selling your product to the company, or just selling yourself as a person that they like, how can you get to the negotiation table? Then there's the psychology of influence, the book, the most famous book in the world, written by your Professor Robert Giordini from the University in Phoenix, Arizona. Then the haggling, then conflict. And let's be fair, positive energy comes into this. And I've added this one into my books afterwards, because we need to sell ourselves, don't we? And people like people that come across positively, people who transmit their energy across to others, rather than the people that are a bit toxic and suck energy out. And we all know and can think about people that are like that at the moment. And then I always turn to how you negotiate. What's best? Face to face, Zoom as we've got now, the phone, email, instant messaging, WhatsApp. Goodness me, what's going on? And you all know the answers to this, but I always ask this question because I want to make people think when I put that slide up. Clearly, face to face is best, isn't it? It's absolutely best for a number of reasons. And that we're in the same room as the person, we can see the body language, we can hear the voice tonality, we can get a feel for them. In the old days, we used to shake hands with them, although I understand from yesterday in the UK, handshaking is now allowed, although I'm not very keen on shaking hands with people in the future, maybe a wave or a fist bump or an elbow, but and there was a poll on LinkedIn yesterday about, is hugging going to start again? Well, I'm not very keen on hugging people either, but a lot of people did seem to be. Then we got Zoom. I like Zoom, actually. A lot of people moan about Zoom, Zoom doom. I call it Zoom boom, because it gives us a chance to look people in the eye. It gives me a chance to look down the camera at you. You can look at my eyes, because if you can't see someone's eyes and they don't look at you, you're probably not going to trust them. And trust is really important when you're negotiating a win-win situation. And then, of course, we come to the telephone, the most underused piece of kit in Europe at the moment. Actually, I'm not even sure it's going to be called a telephone much longer, is it? It's just going to be for Facebook, emails, and, you know, particularly for the younger generation, who are all going to be suffering from what they call TextNet, which is a new physiotherapy issue that people have got, because if you look down like this for too long, you actually strain your neck and you get a right crick in it. And then we come to email and instant messaging, which is the point I want to make, because the problem with emails, the problem with instant messaging, the problem with Facebook and the likes is it's one-way communication. And there only needs to be one word in there which upsets the other person, and they can't communicate back, can't see where they're coming from, and you've got a huge issue. And the statistics on emails are that it depends on the mood, the state of the receiver, how they interpret the email. So we're not really in a position to know even how they're going to interpret it. And also that the later in the day it gets, the tireder people get, again, the worse they interpret the email. So what a terrible way of negotiating. But let me give you one piece of advice. If you get a toxic email from someone, or someone that's something that gets you emotional, then just pick up the phone, call the person and say, Laura, I just got your email. I'm curious where you're coming from. And I just counted to 5 there. That was 5 seconds when I held the silence, and just 5 seconds while I held that silence. It seemed a really long time, didn't it? But let me tell you, curious or I'm wondering where you're coming from are great softeners. I've just written an article about questioning skills, and if you put those in front of the question, it reduces the impact of the hardness of it. And you can see I've got emoticons down there, emojis, whatever we want to call them. I quite like putting a smiley face after something if I know the person well and we've got rapport, and maybe it's a controversial statement. So moving on to the next slide, I just thought I'd throw in a slide where people were prepared to lie, whether we're calling it white lies, black lies. Are we allowed to say that now? I don't know. I'm totally lost on what I'm allowed to say and what I'm not allowed to say. But is it a small lie? Is it just a spin, a bit of a fib, or is it a terrible untruth? And 37% were prepared to lie on the phone, 27% on a face-to-face, 21% on a text, WhatsApp, and 14% by email. What does that tell us? That tells us that we should be reading the body language if we're actually talking to people direct. But if we're not sure they were telling us the truth, which is why we need to be readers of body language, very important when you're negotiating, then put it in writing, confirm what they said, talk to them about it at that point. That's Lauren. You're negotiating with Lauren. How are you getting on? Can you put in the chat box whether you're getting on well or badly? Okay, well or badly in the chat box, please. I'm just going to stop the share for a minute. Okay, you haven't got anything in the chat box yet. Well or badly? Badly, not so good. Lauren doesn't seem very happy. Not so great. Yeah. So Lauren's pretty negative, isn't it? What can we tell about her negativity there? Well, first of all, she's got her eyes pouted, hasn't she? She's got her hair back in quite an aggressive kind of slick way. She's pouting her mouth, and she's got her arms folded. Guys, I'd like you to do one thing for me now. I'd like to fold your arms, okay? Could you fold your arms? I'm looking at you all now, so I'm checking your body language. This is not negotiable because you come on the program anyway, and you know, I'm 4,000 miles away. I want to know, are you a left arm? This is my left arm in case it's the wrong way around. Are you a left arm over right person or a right over left? Okay, so raise your hand for me if you're a left over right. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and a right over left. Okay, would you like to know psychologically what it means if you're a left over right? You ready for this? Means you're incredibly sexy. Oh, you're laughing. This is good. I'm feeling a bit lonely. If I say that in front of 200 people, I get a laugh. It's a bit difficult on Zoom. Only kidding. You know, if you're right over left, you know what I tell the audience? You're incredibly good looking. Now they think, what is this guy on? You know, some crazy British guy, and he's probably taking the wrong drink. But the reason I do that is I'd like you now to fold your arms again, but fold them the other way. Okay, how does that feel? One of two. You're having a bit of trouble doing it, I think. Shannon, you're having a bit of trouble with that one, aren't you? I can see that, yeah. Why am I doing that? Because we have always folded our arms out the same way. It's in our DNA. It's just like we probably put our left thumb on top of our right thumb if we do that, rather than the other way. We've actually got a dominant eye. For those of you who've ever played golf, we have a dominant eye. It'd be better to look, mine's a left one, it'd be better to look at the putt with your dominant eye rather than both of them. And therefore, when we do it a different way, when we do it a way which is outside our comfort zone, when we ask for a bit more in a negotiation and we're outside our comfort zone, we get better results. Because if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. And you can always try something different. You can always do something a different way. And if it doesn't work, so what? Go back and do it the odd way. But if you keep doing it the same way, you're always going to get what you've always got. So sometimes we have to step out the box, outside the box. So that's a great thing you can do with your teams when you've got teams with your children, your grandchildren, and demo it that way. But as you say, Lauren was looking pretty negative. Now, guys, we're nearly halfway through the time I've been allotted, which is great. It's flown by for me. I hope it's going fast for you, and I'm giving you some useful information. But if you've got any questions, short, sharp, specific questions, if you could put them in the chat box, because I'm going to stop for questions in a couple of minutes before I move on to part two. So all questions are good questions. There's no such thing as a silly question. All questions are good questions. And this is a huge subject, which I've studied for 30 years. And there's no right answer to any negotiation. Every negotiation is different because every individual that you're negotiating with is different, and every circumstance that you're negotiating is different. Liz has put salary negotiation tips, please. Liz, would you like to be a little bit more specific than that? But I will answer it. Don't worry. I won't dodge any questions, but I can't guarantee to give you the right answers. So I'll come to that in a minute. Okay, let me just share the screen again, and then I'll come back to those two questions in just a couple of minutes, plus any other questions we've got in the chat box. I have a score sheet, and I've got it on the flip chart behind me, and I'll come to it in a minute in the second part. But the first point on negotiation, which is so vital, any negotiation, you need to prepare. Prepare. Proper preparation prevents pretty poor performance. And you need to, and this is how I prepare. This is how I prepared for you. I did a mind map. I don't know how many of you use mind maps. I did that mind map for you last night. I colored it in at 3 o'clock. By the way, it's 4:30 in the afternoon here in the UK. And it starts in the middle. What's the objectives of the session? What's the outcome of the session that I would like? And what are all the sprigs that go round it? Ladies and gentlemen, the benefit of a mind map is under a stress situation, like an interview, like a negotiation, like an exam, the recall, having mind mapped it, which works on the right side of the brain, is phenomenal compared with left brain notes like I've got by the side of me. I'm a serial note taker. If I go to a conference, I just take notes, because you write things down in your own handwriting, as you probably know, it goes into the brain and it sticks much better than typing it out on a QWERTY keyboard. Does anyone know, by the way, why a keyboard is called QWERTY, QUERTY? Hands up, you must all know this. Yeah, of course you do. Of course you do. Keith knows it because Mr. Remington who invented the typewriter 150 years ago, was a mathematician, and he calculated that the keys on the typewriter wouldn't get stuck if they were in that order. Totally useless in 2021, makes no sense at all, except we've programmed our brains to use a QWERTY keyboard, which is exactly why making notes on a QWERTY keyboard is not as effective as making them in your own handwriting, connected between your dominant hand and your brain, which is why a mind map. And the only other trick, and I see Valerie's leaning forward to try and see it. I can send you this if you want, Laura, and you can send it out to people, or if they want. Because making notes in your own dominant hand connects between here and here, and it goes in. Do you remember, you're probably all too young at school to have to do lines and write the times table out 20 times. But of course, that stuck when we did that for those times. So preparation. Let me answer a couple of questions now quickly, and we'll see. What have we got in here? I think we had a question about salary negotiations. Trying to find it actually.
Yeah, it's Liz had asked salary negotiation tips, and maybe you can go a little more in detail on that, Liz, for Derek.
Yeah, sure. Okay, Liz. Well, negotiating the salary is no different from negotiating anything else. So the principles are exactly the same. You need to do your preparation. You need to find out what the competition is offering. You need to have a fantastic LinkedIn profile and have everything on social media looking good, because you know, you're going to get the job. You're going to have to look seriously professional, which is why I changed out of my gardening clothes half an hour before I came on this call and put a suit and tie on for you, because I can always dress down, but I can't dress up. And dressing up on Zoom is really important as well, because people will judge you in split seconds. So there's a lot of background stuff goes into this, doesn't it? What do you say when they ask you what's your expectations? What are you expecting to earn? Because that's probably a tricky question, isn't it? And you really want to say back to them, well, what are you offering? But it depends if you haven't got the job. So I think salary negotiations, it depends if you got the job or not first. I think you need to negotiate the job before you negotiate the salary. And then if the salary is too low, you either negotiate it up or you walk away and go for another job. Now you need options. I know if you haven't got a job, everyone feels in a weaker position, but let me tell you that people change jobs all the time, don't they? So that's the first thing. Secondly, you should be applying for a number of jobs. So if I went to negotiate for a car, I need to tell the car salesman that I'm looking at 3 cars. If I tell him this is the car I want, there's not much chance of me being able to negotiate, is it? If I say it's between the car down the road, at the garage down the road, or garage, I don't know how you guys say it. We call it garage. It's a bit odd, isn't it? Then suddenly he knows he's in competition, so therefore he's got to sharpen up the price. If they know that you're going for another job at the same time, then they know that they might have to sharpen the salary up. And you might want to write this down. This is the kind of thing I would do when I was made a salary offer. And I would prefer to be made it face to face, wouldn't I? So clearly it's not quite as easy to do this if you get a letter or an email. But if you do get a letter or an email, I suggest you want to call the person or have a Zoom call. And this is what I do. I go, I was really hoping that you could offer me a bit more. Is there anything you could do to help me? Now, I just want to break down what I did there. I did what they call a flinch. The most famous flinch was done by Khrushchev at the Cuban nuclear arms negotiations at the United Nations, I think in 1967 with President Kennedy, although I'm not sure if President Kennedy had been killed by then. So, you know, Bill, perhaps you can put me right on on that. When Khrushchev banged the table with his shoe, and he didn't actually take his shoe off to bang the table. When they played the cine film back, they watched the aide under the table pass the shoe. Now he banged the table quite hard. Half of the world know that it's a total insult to put a shoe on the table, certainly to show the soles of your feet to an Arab, somebody from the Middle East, Far East, total insult, worst thing you can do. The Russians knew that, of course they did. Everybody was watching this. That was an exaggerated flinch, but we can do little flinches like sharp intake of breath, and maybe a little head scratch as well. That was, you know, I was hoping to get a bit more than that for this job. I'm certainly looking for a bit more. Okay, that's the statement. And then you follow it by a question. And you do it with a soft voice tonality because they might not like it. And therefore you drop your voice. This is, for those of you that studied NLP and you're a linguistic programming, you'll know that the way you do these things is really important. And you drop your voice, you say, and is there anything you can do to help me? And you shut up. Golden rule number one, you shut up, because people generally start talking and saying things like, because I need a bit more, because I need a holiday, and they start devaluing the question. When you ask a high quality question, ladies and gentlemen, you shut up. The problem is that people don't ask high quality questions, they ask weak questions, and most high quality questions come with how, what, can you help me? And they're open, and you make the statement and then you shut up. And in fact, I remind people that you zip this, and if you can't zip it, you know, imagine a zip and pull it across and then shut up, because if you don't shut up, you're letting the other person off the hook. Now, if you can't get a raise, you can't get a salary, what else can you get? Because it's not all about money life, is it? Can you get extra holiday? Can you get study leave? Can you get working from home allowance? Can you get can you be allowed to work from home more than you'd like to? And we were certainly all going to be allowed to work from home, apart from that lady who got her letter in the New York Times today about not working from home. There was a CEO of a company that published a letter to everybody telling them they couldn't work from home, I read on the BBC News this morning. So what are the extras? And I call those variables. What are the variables that are outside of the money that you can get that would be worth a lot to you? You know, if you're sick, private healthcare, Medicare. Does Medicare exist anymore? I don't know whether that was stopped by, you're shaking your head, Vary. So I guess Trump got rid of that when Obama was came in. Yeah. So what are the extras that you can get? Guys, I wrote a book on salary negotiations about 15 years ago, but it's out of print now, so you can't get it. But if you say something nice about me on LinkedIn and send me an email to my email address, I've got a PDF of it. I'll send you a PDF. There's no magic answer to this, and you're all looking a little bit, he's not giving me the answers I want, but there's no magic answer to this, is there? You have to prepare, you have to build rapport, best to get the job, have the job offer before you start negotiating, because you can always turn the job down if the salary is under what you want. So I hope that
Derek, real quick, did you see Shannon's question? I wasn't sure that got addressed. Recommendations on dodging question of expected salary before you have the job.
Okay, no, I didn't, Laura. Thanks for that.
Yeah, then not a problem. So,
well, Shannon, I'm the same when people ask me what fee I want to speak at a conference. So I'm doing the same dodging around, but you can't dodge it forever. That's the problem. So if they really push you like they push me, then I have to say something a bit higher, but than perhaps I wanted, but or really wanted, so we can come down. But leave it so that you can come down. So the language I would use, and you must put this into your own language. Remember, I'm in England, our language is slightly different, but I would say, I'm looking for around, all right? I'm looking for around. And if you're looking for around $80,000 to $100,000, then you mustn't say I'm looking for around 80, must you? You must say I'm looking for around 100. because you can always come down, but you can't go up. You can always ski downhill. You can get on the ski lift and go up, but it's very difficult to go up without a ski lift. So you can always come down. So when I was going to show you the slides, but the time's ticking away. I'd rather answer your questions, but I want to say absolute fundamental of preparation is what's your best position you want to achieve, your dream position. What's your target position, what you'd like to achieve, you'd be happy with, and what's your walk away position where frankly you just couldn't take the job because you've got mortgages to pay and everything else. And then, and this is the magic, what's the alternative position? Because if you turn the job down, what are you going to do with the time? Are you going to be able to find another position? Are you going to go out marketing? Are you going to go into New York or San Francisco or to Dallas and job seek for a day, 2 days, 3 days? Are you going to really go for it and give it that energy and get a better job? Or do you think you should take this job for 6 months and then at the same time look around? And Harvard called that a BATNA, best alternative to a negotiated agreement. I didn't really think that translated very, very much when I got off at Heathrow, so I called it an alternative position. In other words, if you walk away, what's the alternative? And I recommend that you say, well, I don't think I can accept that today. I just wonder if there's anything you could do to help me, but I'd like to think about it overnight. Now you've done two things there, haven't you? You've asked them, can they nudge it up a bit? And secondly, you haven't said, no, you haven't walked away from it permanently, because you might go back and talk to your partner. You might sleep on it overnight. And it's best to sleep on any difficult situation, as you know, overnight, because the brain never goes to sleep, which is why we wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning with answers to problems that we can't fathom out at 10 o'clock at night. And always keep a pen by your bed, because you get those ideas. Einstein, Edison got those ideas in the middle of the night, wrote them down on the pad. They disappear in about 10 seconds, apparently. It's called alpha state when you get those ideas. And I get them all the time and they're brilliant. And I always write them down. So leave it open and try and nudge them up, and using soft language. And then, of course, you know, you can use some of the other skills from NLP, like mirroring and matching the body language of the person, which of course you can do on Zoom. So, you know, if I'm mirroring Liz just had a drink of her coffee cup, so I might have a drink of my coffee cup at the time. Thanks for doing that, Liz, for me at that point. And Bill's on his coffee cup like me now. So and if you do use any of those NLP techniques, just do them gently. They're fine. But, you know, we're not Tony Robbins, and we don't do that flashy stuff. We just do it gently, because Adam and Eve mirrored each other's body language. If you don't think this works, look at a little child's mirror mum and dad immediately on everything. So,
hey, Derek, there's another question there.
Keep
looks
coming.
like it was Valerie. Yeah, can you read it in there?
What's the question? Is this?
It says, yeah, it's how to contain my enthusiasm when I get into the offer stage of the company. I've already decided that they're a great fit for me, and I'm eager to seal the deal and move along, but how to slow down and negotiate.
Well, I think, let me have a go at that. So no right answer to any of these things are there, Valerie, but you don't, until you got the salary, you don't really want to say, I really want this job, you know, God, you're a fantastic firm. Even if you've gone in and said that, and then, you know, you go in and you want $60,000 or whatever the number is, $160,000, and they offer you 120, you know, you go, oh, well, I really wanted to work for you, but it's going to be really difficult to accept it for that. And now here's the trick. You've got to use the word because, and you've got to put a because in there. Now I'm trying to think of the lady psychologist at Harvard who did the research, and you probably read about this, into people jumping the queue on a photocopying machine. So very quickly, and the name will come to me in a minute, very quickly, they did some research at Harvard 30 years ago when people jumped the queue, students jumped the queue on a photocopying machine. And when they didn't use the word because, they still got 65% compliance, because people didn't want an argument. When they used the word because, they got 93% compliance, even though Some of them didn't even say anything afterwards because I'm in a rush, because I'm busy. They didn't say because I need to pick my kids up, because I have to go to the doctor or whatever. But when they use the word because, it's really important that you use because. And if you've got a mortgage and if you've got kids, use them. If you haven't, use something else. You know, and most people have got a mortgage, or most people have got debt, or most people have got parents to support, and use it, because your street cred will go up, well, from 65 to 93 when you use it. But if you're sort of defensive and you don't tell them why, frankly, they won't believe you. And you want rapport, which we haven't even spent any time on talking about rapport. But the first thing, before you go into a negotiation, you want to connect with the person as much as you can. And I know we're short of time, but LinkedIn is really useful, guys. Really, really useful. Don't underestimate LinkedIn. It's the business Facebook. There's no doubt about it. And before I negotiate or go and see anyone, I look them up on LinkedIn and look at their picture, look at where they've been. I get some information about them. I know perhaps what university they went to, what school, what college, or whatever. So it gives me an intro. Perhaps they're interested in golf, football, sport, soccer, whatever it is. It gives me an intro. Not to do it incongruently, but to do it genuinely, etc. At the first impression, because you want people to like you. And if you do research Robert Cialdini, and I recommend it, and I wrote about it in great deal in my book Win-Win, for the simple reason it's really important. And Laura, have I got 2 or 3 minutes left to? So Robert Cialdini, Influence, Science and Practice is the book. Basically, Cialdini said there are 6 traits of influencing which work below the level of everybody's unconscious mind. Okay. And number 1 was, does the person like you or not? People go, well, it didn't take rocket science to work that out, did it, from a university professor that's written the best book? Well, the problem is that people don't go in and make themselves likable quite often. And how do they make themselves likable? Well, they dress like the person. They're as much like the person as possible. They do as much research about the person, and then they mirror and match their body language and their voice, tone of voice, and all the techniques that are recommended in all sorts, every psychology book there is. They just don't put themselves out. And maybe I shouldn't have put a suit and a tie on for you guys, because you haven't got suits and ties on, but I can do this pretty quick, can't I? But I can't put a tie on if I go into a board meeting in New York City and find everybody else has got a tie on. So number 1 was liking. Number 2 was called reciprocity, giving things away for nothing, giving people things for nothing. Now, how can you do that in a job interview? Well, you can know a bit about the person that's interviewing you in advance, can't you? Number 3 was authority. Do you come across as professional with authority? You're the person they want to employ, how you come across, which is exactly why, to make the point, when I'm on Zoom, I put a suit and a tie on to professionals like you, so I make the point. Not that I need to, it would be much cooler to be dressed down, but I can't dress up. So qualifications are important, and therefore people are going to look at your LinkedIn. LinkedIn's your CV. Forget CVs, because people are looking at your CV. That's LinkedIn before, and you don't even know they're looking at it, unless you pay $40 a month, and you don't need to pay for LinkedIn at all. No one needs to pay for it. It's a waste of money. Only the job search people look at that. Number 4 is scarcity. People want things that are scarce. Sale ends at 5 o'clock. People go in and buy all sorts of things in the sale because the sale ends at 5 o'clock, and it's the fear of missing out. What's that called? FOMO, isn't it? FOMO, fear of missing out. That's in our psyche. 80% of people in the UK have things in their wardrobe that they've never worn because they thought they should buy it because it was in a sale and the sale was going to end. How bonkers is that? Same with me. Same with my wife. The 5th one, social proof. Social proof is basically, people can say nice things about you, but you can't say nice things about yourself. So testimonials on LinkedIn are really important. You know, Valerie is a fantastic worker. She worked with me for 3 years in X company, and I'd recommend her to anybody, or something like that. How'd you get testimonials on LinkedIn? You ask for them, and you write them out for people, and you say to your best pals or the person that you work with that really liked you, would you mind putting a testimonial on LinkedIn for me? Show them how to do it, by the way, because LinkedIn's not that easy to do it. There's a couple of clicks. You might have to Google it to find out how to do it. And you say, would you mind putting something up, you know, like I suggested? And generally, you always ask the best people, don't you? They will be delighted to do it for you, but they won't do it out the blue. And by the way, you probably have to give them a testimonial back about them, because that's reciprocity. And the last one is commitment. And so therefore, if people agree to something, they probably will never go back on it. So you might say, and this is another salary negotiation tip, but ladies and gentlemen, these tips are the same across whether you're negotiating on your salary, whether you're negotiating for a car, whether you're negotiating with your partner, whether you're negotiating with kids, because kids are fantastic negotiators. We haven't even talked about kids. They're brilliant, aren't they? No one teaches them, but they play mum off against dad. Granny off against mum is another great one. Granny said I could do it, lying through their teeth. It's not fair. Mums are horrible. They never let me do things, etc. We know it, don't we? You know. I got this theory, by the way. When we're born, the moment we're born, pop out of mum's womb and we have a look round and we go a bit hungry. If I cry, what happens? Oh, I get fed. Okay, so crying equals food. And I've worked for some people in London who always were throwing their toys out the pram and crying and bullying, and they've done it forever. So let me just give you an example of the commitment. If you could raise my salary, if you could raise the offer, which I'd really appreciate, by $5,000, then I would be able to agree to start work for you next Monday or whatever. So again, but don't cut yourself off because you might want to take that job at the existing salary. Just say, I need to go and talk to my partner, my husband, my wife, my mum, my granny, or you just say, I just need to sit on the beach for an hour and think about it, because I was hoping to earn a bit more, because, magic word, because I have a big mortgage, I have school fees to pay, I have Medicare bills, medical bills for me granny, and you see, you don't have to lie about this, do you? Because you just need to think outside the box, mind map it, and you'll find a really genuine reason. By the way, if you lie, people will probably see through it. We haven't talked about body language today, but body language is easy. You can easily read body language. I mean, what's the worldwide signal for lying? Pinocchio's nose grew every time he told a lie. So, you know, it's been lovely to be with you today. People rubbing their noses, and you know why that is, because we get a little itch here when the brain knows we're telling lies. Laura, I better be quiet because it's 5 o'clock and I can go on for as long as you like, really.
I know. I thought that we could probably go to the next half of the presentation, but it was really great to be able to stop and answer some questions, because I think I really appreciate you going off script and being able to do that, because I think that provides great value to everybody that's here. And like you say, it doesn't matter what you're negotiating. And I don't know if anybody has any last minute questions. I mean, we're right at the top of the hour, but if everybody's good.
I can stay on for a bit if you want me to, Laura. I don't mind, or if anyone wants to fire questions at me, I'm okay.
Bill had his hand up.
I'd like to summarize for a minute at the end, though, before you close the.
Okay, go ahead, Bill.
I have another obligation and I'm going to have to jump off.
Okay,
Laura's
go ahead.
Running it anyway, so that's not a big deal.
Okay, have a nice day, Bill. We'll chat with you. I'll catch up with you a little bit later. Okay, thank you. And well, I'm just going to let you know that next week we have same time, same day. We have Rick Clody, who's out of Nashville, and he's an executive recruiter, and he's going to talk to 3 questions every hiring masks and kind of pull the curtain back and talk about the conversations that clients have with their executive recruiters. So it should be fairly worthwhile. And Rick is a great speaker like Derek. So I would welcome all of you to join us then. Fiona will make sure you have all the details for it. If you want to hang out, that's great. Otherwise, thanks all for being here. And especially thanks to you, Derek, for sharing everything with us today on your book and topic.
And there are some comments in the chat box which are applicable to everybody else. So yeah, but I'm sorry I didn't cover all the we didn't cover everything that I was going to cover. I covered it in part from the questions, but you know where I am. My email is action@derekarden.co.uk. If you want 15 minutes on the phone at any time or on Zoom, then that's an offer. I won't.
Okay.
That's complimentary. So let me know, and I'll stick around, Laura. For
Yeah, Ron, did you have anything specific you want to chat with Derek about since you're still here? Or are you good?
I'm good.
Okay,
I'm good.
well, it's good to see you.
Same here. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you.
It was great, Derek. It was really informative.
Thanks very much, Ron. I really appreciate that.
And I'm